Hi, it's Paul from Model Builder International again. What we're going to look at today is something a little bit different. The first time I've looked at one of these. It's a 1/56 KV-1, KV-2 kit from Italeri in their 28mm wargaming series. Okay, so let's have a look, see what we get. To start with, on the outside of the box, 28mm 1/56 scale, so going to be a bit bigger than 1/72, but a bit smaller than 1/48. Looks like you can do either a KV-1 or a KV-2 from this. It says there's one model, obviously going to be two turrets in there. In conjunction with the warlordgames.com, which is all about wargaming in the 28mm scale. So let's look on the sides. There's nothing there, but on the back, picture of the kit, and there's what looks like one decal option for KV-2, two for a KV-1, and the colours on the back, they're in Italeri paints. So let's have a look inside and see what's actually in there. So inside we get, okay, first off we get the decal sheet with 5 options for the KV-1 and 5 options for KV-2, so that's a bit different. The instructions, we'll go through those in more detail after I've opened up the bag. Okay, inside we have 2 threads. They look quite nice. Well, so what I'll do now is we'll have a closer look. We'll go through the instructions, have some close-up looks at these threads, but first glance there's some nice details there. I'll put up images of the sprues while I talk for a minute. So the sprues themselves are pretty good. There's nicely detailed parts on there, especially for the scale. A lot of simplified parts as well. I'll talk more about that in a second. The attachment points are good, usually out the way, easy to clean up. Ejector pin marks are not a problem. They're either completely out the way, so never see the light of day, or they're actually on the sprues themselves. I had to think about this kit for a bit, what its place in the market is. The first clue is on the front, warlordgames.com. So these are squarely aimed at the wargaming community. Wargamers are not interested in a high parts count, incredibly detailed kits. They're going to be wanting something that they can put together pretty quickly, throw some paint on it, nice decal options, and we're good to go. Another market for these, I was thinking, is youngsters and people new to the hobby who want something nice and simple, reasonably sized parts, so they're not dealing with tiny little pieces and tweezers, something they can slap some paint on, something they can have fun with, and end up with something they've built by the end of the afternoon, sort of thing. So that's the 2 main markets I can see who will be really interested in this, and I can see this appearing on a lot of gifts at Christmas time or whenever, birthdays, things like that, whenever you give gifts. So that's what I'm thinking with these, and for those markets these are perfect. So let's have a look at the instructions themselves. So we start off with step 1, basically putting the tracks on the running gear. As you can see, the running gear is basically molded together one part. Just add on a drive wheel and an idler, and the tracks are very simplified but actually quite nicely detailed, so those will be reasonably straightforward to put together. It's a good simplification for people who are wanting to see quick results. Step 2 is basically putting the tracks and running gear onto the sides of the hull and adding a part at the back of the hull. Pretty straightforward. Step 3, adding some small parts on top of the hull and some storage boxes. Again, pretty straightforward. You have the choice of fitting the driver's hatch open or closed, but note there isn't a driver and there is no interior. And then when you've done that, you put that on top of the lower hull you've already built. Okay, step 4 is step 4 and 5 together are building the KV-1 version. Basically, build the KV-1 turret, put it on the hull. The turret the gun is made from basically a barrel, 2 pieces at the back, and a turret front. And then the turret itself is made from 4 parts and some small parts on top. And there's a recess in the top. It's not a hole, it's a recess for fitting a 3/4 figure. Step 6 and 7 is building the KV-2 turret, obviously much bigger. Basically similar steps though. Put the gun together. Turret is made from 5 parts this time. Or the rest of the turret is made from 5 parts, and again a recess in the top to put a 3/4 figure in and some small details to add in the top. So a pretty straightforward, simple build. Shouldn't present any problems for getting one together in an afternoon, and if you know what you're doing, even painting it pretty well in an afternoon as well. Colours are called out, they're named in English, Federal Standard numbers, and Italeri acrylic paint reference numbers as well. Over the page you see there is 5 decal options for each of the models. I'll put the Decals sheet up now. As you can see, they're all with logos in Russian, mostly white, one red one. So they've aimed for things that are, shall we say, noticeable. If you're doing wargaming and have a bunch of KV-1s, it'd be nice to have them all different, so you can have up to 5 different here. They also supply you with a couple of red stars, well actually 4 red stars, 2 of them different style. So you can make another 2 options of both of them there, just using red stars. And the decal sheet looks quite nice. The backing film is nice and small. Obviously the backing film is there between the letters, so you don't have to line all the letters up yourself, thank goodness. So overall it's quite a nice little kit. It's a nice size. It's, as I said, bigger than 1/72, smaller than 1/48. There's some quite nice detail on the hull itself, on the top of the hull, that should come up quite nicely. Overall it's a nice kit. For the 2 markets, wargaming and youngsters, it's perfect. And if you were looking for something to buy somebody for the next celebration, these are good things to look at. Many thanks to Italeri for sending them to us.